Hey there, fellow travelers. We just got back from a cruise on the Carnival Horizon, and I would like to take the time to share a detailed review of our experience with you. I'll pack this review with as many tips and tricks as possible for you, so you'll get the most value out of it, so stay tuned. The Horizon was built in 2017 and is a Vista-class cruise ship. Its sibling cruise ships would include the Vista and the Panorama. Our 8-day Southern Caribbean cruise embarked from the beautiful Miami cruise port, the world's busiest passenger cruise port. To start our trip off, I was able to book a Lift XL from the Miami airport to the Miami cruise port Terminal D for about $30 prior to gratuity. Here you can see the ship sailing away from downtown Miami past Miami Beach, one of the things that really makes this cruise port special in my opinion. Next, we'll take a look at the Serenity area for guests 21 and over. This area has 2 jacuzzis and a bar, along with several lounge chairs for people to relax. I've always found this area a little busy, especially on sea days, so have opted not to spend a whole lot of time here personally. Overall, the Horizon featured 3 pools and 6 outdoor jacuzzis. Here we are taking a look at the pool and the jacuzzis on the back of the ship. These were my jacuzzis of choice for a pre-breakfast soak in the morning. They were very uncrowded and often had 0 to 4 people in them at the most. I'd recommend checking these ones out for an early morning soak over the ones on the Serenity deck. Here we're taking a look down on the Havana pool and hot tubs. Access to these pools comes when you book a Havana room, which requires all guests to be over the age of 12 to book the room. Just a word of caution, the main swimming pool in the middle of the ship was over-chlorinated. This bleached my wife's shirt. In addition, my daughter came down with swimmer's ear during the week, which required antibiotics for treatment. I've always enjoyed when Carnival decorates the top deck with towel animals. It's always a pleasant surprise to walk through when I go to get my morning coffee. The Dr. Seuss Waterworks play area featured a 150-gallon tipping bucket along with small yellow slides for younger kids, while the bigger kids can enjoy 2 adult-friendly slides. The Fun Things blue slide, which had a height requirement of 42 inches, and the Cat in the Hat red slide, which had a height requirement of 48 inches. Both slides have a maximum weight limit of 265 pounds, ensuring a safe and thrilling adventure for everyone. Next, we'll take a look at Camp Ocean. Camp Ocean is the onboard daycare for kids aged 2 through 11. The kids are split into 3 different groups, ages 2 to 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 11. There are other services available for limited hours for kids younger than 2. The camp offered different activities throughout the day, including crafts, songs, games, movies, and video games. There was a schedule posted each day that told us what time different activities would be at. This allowed us to pick and choose the activities my daughter wanted to attend. The warehouse was an onboard arcade that had a pretty decent variety of games that could be played for an additional cost. Next, let's take a quick peek at the smart elevators on the ship. You'll select your floor level prior to ever boarding the actual elevator. If you have 2 people in your party, you'll want to hit the button twice. This is how the elevator keeps track of how many people are actually on the elevator. Once you select your floor, it'll give you a letter, and you look for the corresponding letter above the elevator to know which one you need to take. Our cruise was in early December, which was a Christmas-themed cruise. I felt the ship did a good job of decorating for the season. We even got a visit from Santa Claus during the week. The Horizon featured an onboard IMAX movie theater. Tickets started at $8 for kids and went up to $17 for adults, depending on the time of day you went to your movie. They also featured snacks and beers that could be purchased. The theater did offer newer releases, but had a limited number of movies that could be chosen from. Next, we'll take a quick peek in the Liquid Lounge. This was used for different activities throughout the day and the shows in the evenings. Quality of seats do vary in this theater. So if you are really wanting to watch a show one night, I'd recommend getting there a little bit early to try to get a good seat. The nightly shows were done well, although a bit redundant from night to night, and often struggled to keep my daughter's attention during the entirety of the show. Onboard activities include a basketball court, which is converted to volleyball and dodgeball throughout the week, a walking and jogging track, along with an outdoor workout area. The sports square also includes ping pong, mini golf, and other games such as life-size pool and chess. Perhaps the two biggest attractions in the sports square are the Skyride and the ropes course. The Skyride has a minimum height requirement of 54 inches and a weight limit of 250 pounds. Passengers can ride side by side or race on this 800-foot-long bicycle course track. The next big attraction is the ropes course. This has a 48-inch minimum height requirement as well as a 300-pound weight limit. Guests must be wearing closed-toed shoes to participate with this attraction. We opted to try Bonsai Teppanyakiki on the horizon. This was a lot of fun. It was as much of a show as it was a meal. Prices for lunch were $38 per person. Prices for dinner were $42 per person. It featured appetizers, entrees, and the dessert box. We also tried JiJi's Asian Kitchen for dinner one night. This was a not-so-Americanized Chinese food experience, with food from all around different Asian regions. This was a lot of fun to try interesting dishes. Prices here started at $24 per adult and $6 per child. My recommendations for the foods I tried here were the stewed pork, the kung pao chicken, and the ice cream-filled crepes for dessert. Our last paid meal experience was the Dr. Seuss Green Eggs and Ham Breakfast. This came with an additional cost of $10 per adult and $8 per kid. This was a lot of fun. It was very well themed and had different foods that were Dr. Seuss themed as well. As breakfast was being served, different Dr. Seuss characters came around the tables to do meet and greets with families. Overall, this was a high-energy, fun event, which I would highly recommend if you have little ones. Next, let's take a look at the two Guy Fieri restaurants on board. Guy's Burger is on deck 10 and is where most people will rush once they get on board to get lunch in Miami. My recommendation to you is to go to Guy's Pig and Anchor. Guy's Pig and Anchor is located roughly midship on deck 5. Here you will find much shorter lines as most people have not discovered the restaurant yet. There's free barbecue lunch here on sea days and on the Miami port day. A few of the menu items available were mac and cheese, beans, pulled pork, sausage, and chicken. Just keep in mind this is a paid experience for dinner time. Another great food option was the Pizzeria del Capitano. This place was always packed. Although there were only a few options for toppings, the pizzas were fantastic. Another standout food option was the Sweet Spots Cake Bar. The cake bar was offered during the lunch buffet and had different flavors to choose from each day. The Blue Iguana was open for breakfast and lunch and featured burritos and tacos made fresh. I really enjoyed it, especially the salsa bar with lots of different toppings. And the last food place I wanted to highlight was the Deli. I really enjoyed the chicken sandwich they had here. One thing I wanted to mention is that you should use extra caution up on the Lido deck. One passenger fell during our week of the cruise and broke their leg on it. It was always extremely slippery, and for some reason Carnival couldn't seem to get that under control. The Horizon Casino featured table games, poker, a casino bar, blackjack, and slots. The Horizon did feature a Cloud9 spa, however I didn't spend any time in it this vacation. I have some footage from the Panorama last year that I will link either here or in the description. Please feel free to check that out if you're interested in taking an in-depth look into the spa. There were several bars around the ship, including the Skybox sports bar, where you could go kick back and have a drink and watch sports. The Havana bar, which featured live music, Cuban cocktails, and Cuban coffee. The ship also featured the library, which was a good place to get away and read or play some games. Board games, that is. Our first port of call was in Bonaire. Bonaire was a Dutch Caribbean island, and the primary draw to Bonaire is the scuba diving. For those who don't scuba dive, it was extremely easy to book an island tour directly off the boat through a local vendor. They were all set up in colorful tents, and most of the tours took you to the same places, although some did a full island tour both north and south, and others only did a South Island tour. My personal favorites of Bonaire were the Thousand Steps dive site, along with the national park on the north side of the island. The island in general had a deserty, arid feel. Our second port of call was in Aruba, another Dutch Caribbean island. We decided to take our own excursion this day and took a taxi to the butterfly farm. The taxi ride was a flat $16 rate, and the taxis in Aruba had rates all set by the government there. The butterfly farm was a lot of fun and showed us the entire life cycle of a butterfly, from egg to cocoon to butterfly transformations. It was very educational and very family friendly. The rates to get into the butterfly farm were $19 for adults and $10 for kids. Our next stop was in La Romana, Dominican Republic. This was a newer cruise terminal that had seen a lot of improvements since we were here last about a decade ago. The cruise terminal featured a swimming pool, along with several shops and restaurants to choose from. Basically a smaller version of Amber Cove, if anybody's ever been there. Truly, there was no real reason to leave the cruise terminal, although we chose to take a taxi to a local beach that day instead. Shops included local art and the local jewelry made of Larimar, along with locally made chocolate. Our fourth and final stop was in Amber Cove, which was on the other side of the Dominican Republic near Puerto Plata. We booked an excursion through Carnival on this stop. We booked Monkeyland and Dominican flavors for families. The Monkeyland experience was awesome. It was probably about a 20-minute drive through an open-air bus. Once we got to Monkeyland, we got to go to the monkeys first and spent roughly 45 minutes or so with the monkeys. The trainers had us all sit in a circle around the room and led the monkeys around the room with snacks and treats for the monkeys. I personally could have gone without the Dominican flavors for families, as I had been to the Dominican Republic before. This felt mostly like a Mama Juana, coffee, and chocolate sales pitch. We ended up back at the cruise port after Monkeyland, and there was plenty to do there, with a large swimming pool, water slides that could be purchased for an additional fee of around $5, and a zip line that had an additional fee of around $28. Both ports of call in the Dominican Republic had plenty to do at the actual ports themselves, if somebody didn't feel like venturing out into the cities there. I've really worked hard on putting these video clips together and providing as much information as I could about our experience. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking the video and subscribing and sharing it with your friends. The Horizon did feature self-service laundry that was available. It was $3.50 per washer load and $3.50 per dryer load. Laundry soap was also available for purchase. Last but not least, here's a quick look at our inside cabin. There wasn't a ton of space, however it did function well. The bed was ultra soft, and it was adequate for 3 people. Overall, I chose to book a less expensive room to have money left over for things like restaurants and excursions along the way. I hope you found this video helpful and you have a great time on your trip on the Horizon. Overall, we really enjoyed our experience. One thing I did also want to mention is we had a few problems with the air conditioning not being as cool as it should have been throughout the week, but I'm hoping this will be resolved by the time you're on your trip. Anyway, safe travels and have a great time. Bon voyage.